Adewale's eyes were focused, determined, and honest as he spoke. Mama Ronk, I have come to seek Tamawa's hand in marriage. I may not be rich, but I am hard-working and I will take care of her. For a few seconds, there was complete silence in the compound. Even the evening breeze seemed to pause, waiting for what would happen next. Then, like thunder cracking the sky, Mama Ronk exploded into laughter. Ah, Lauren, did I hear well? Did my ears deceive me? A common fisherman wants to marry my daughter? Wonders shall never end in Ipita village. Her daughter Tamawa stood proudly behind her, adjusting her bright headscarf. Look at you, Adewale, Mama Ronk continued, her eyes scanning him from his worn-out slippers to his torn shirt. What do you have? A broken canoe and an empty pocket? My daughter will marry a prince, not a pauper smelling of fish. Tamawa clicked her tongue and scoffed. You have no shame, Adewale. Don't you know who I am? I can't stoop so low to marry a wretched man like you. The words hit Adewale like stones, but he stood still, his shoulders squared. He had heard whispers about Tamawa's arrogance, but he had hoped that beneath her beauty there would be humility. He was wrong. Adewale took a deep breath and bowed his head slightly. I understand, Mama. I will take my leave. But Mama Ronk wasn't finished. She turned sharply and called out, Saad, come here. From the corner of the compound, a slim girl with a tired face and sad eyes walked forward, her broom still in her hand. Her dress was faded, her feet dusty, and her palms rough from years of labor. Yet she was beautiful, more beautiful than Tamawa, but her beauty was hidden beneath suffering and silence. Saad stopped a few feet away, avoiding eye contact, her heart pounding. She knew nothing good ever came from her stepmother calling her like this. Mama Ronk sneered and pointed at her. Since you're looking for a wife, Adewale, and you think you can walk into my house empty-handed and take my daughter, take Saad. She's available. She's nobody's child. After all, one wretched person deserves another. Saada's knees wobbled as shame crawled up her skin. Adewale lifted his eyes and looked at Saad properly for the first time, and what he saw made his chest tighten. Her beauty was different. It was hidden, gentle, like a flower struggling to grow in the middle of thorns. But beyond her beauty, there was sadness in her eyes. He shifted his gaze back to Mama Ronk. Is she your daughter? She's my late husband's child, Mama Ronk said coldly. Her mother died giving birth to her, and her father followed shortly after. I've been the one carrying her useless load since she was a baby. She has nothing. No family, no money, no beauty compared to my Tamawa. If you must marry from this house, carry her and go. Adewale remained silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on Saad. She didn't dare to look up. Tears welled in her eyes, threatening to fall. Suddenly, Adewale spoke quietly but firmly. I will marry her. Saada's head snapped up in shock. She stared at Adewale like he had just spoken in tongues. Mama Ronk burst out laughing again. Ah, poor people love to gather together. Fisherman and house girl, perfect match. Tamawa hissed and walked away without sparing Adewale another glance. Adewale stepped closer to Saad and said softly, I will come back in 3 market days to see your people. Mama Ronk, prepare her. Before anyone could say another word, he walked away. Saad stood still, unable to move. Her ears were ringing, her heart racing. She had never imagined her life would turn out like this. All her life she had dreamed of freedom, of escaping Mama Ronk's cruelty, but now freedom looked like a prison wrapped in marriage to a man she didn't know. That night, Saad sat outside under the mango tree crying silently. What she didn't know was that fate had already begun to weave a story far bigger than her tears, a story that would shake the entire village of Ipita. Adewale had moved to Ipita village 6 months earlier. He told people he had returned to his mother's hometown in search of greener pastures. He settled quickly and began fishing, but luck did not favor him. The river yielded only small catches and his poverty deepened. The agreed date arrived too quickly. Adewale came to Mama Ronk's compound dressed in a simple native cloth. He came with 2 elders carrying a small keg of palm wine, some tubers of yam, and a token of money for the traditional knocking on the door. Mama Ronk welcomed them with a fake smile. She had already invited her late husband's younger brother to act as Saada's guardian. They all sat down to perform the formalities, while Mama Ronk kept making sarcastic comments between forced laughter. Saad stood quietly behind the kitchen wall, listening as her life was traded without her consent. No one asked how she felt. No one cared. The marriage date was fixed for the next market day, just 3 days away. Mama Ronk wasted no time. As soon as the guests left, she turned to Saad. You will marry Adewale whether you like it or not. I don't want to see your face in this house anymore. You're nothing but a burden. 3 days passed in a blur. The traditional marriage rite was nothing grand. No drums, no dancing, no village feast, just a few elders, the exchange of palm wine, and quiet prayers under the old baobab tree. Saad wore a simple wrapper and a blouse borrowed from a village friend. There was no joy in her eyes, no smile on her lips. When Adewale stepped forward and took her hand, she barely looked at him. She felt empty inside, like someone walking into darkness without knowing what awaited her. As they walked to his small compound by the riverside after the ceremony, the village women whispered behind them, "What a pity. She will suffer. A poor fisherman's wife, no better than being a slave." Adewale remained quiet as they walked. He glanced at Saad from time to time, noticing how withdrawn she was, how she refused to meet his eyes. When they arrived at his house, a small mud hut with a thatched roof and a bamboo fence, he opened the door and stepped aside. "You can come in." Saad stepped in and looked around. The house was small but neat. A mat was spread on the floor, a clay pot of water sat in one corner, and a lantern hung by the wall. "This is your home now," Adewale said quietly. "I know you didn't choose this marriage. I know you don't know me. But I promise I will never hurt you." Saad stood still, tears pooling in her eyes again. She wanted to speak, but words failed her. Adewale gave her space, leaving her to settle in while he went outside to mend his fishing nets. He worked quietly, glancing back at the house every now and then. That night, Saad lay awake, crying silently until dawn. Adewale tried to console her to no avail. Days turned into weeks. The first days of Sada's marriage to Adewale felt like walking through a strange dream she couldn't wake up from. She moved around the small compound like a visitor, quiet and withdrawn. She carried out her chores without being told, but never smiled, never laughed. She expected shouts. She expected beatings. She expected insults, the kind Mama Ronk had always given her, but none came. Instead, what she received was kindness. Adewale woke up before dawn every morning to fish at the river. When he returned, tired and drenched, he would always stop by the market to buy Saad a small gift, a piece of dried fish, a bracelet, or sometimes ripe mangoes. He never raised his voice at her. He never forced himself on her. He never treated her like a burden. Instead, he treated her like she mattered. One evening, as Saad fetched water from the clay pot outside, Adewale approached her quietly. He stood at a distance, not wanting to startle her. "Saad," he said gently. She turned, her eyes meeting his briefly before looking away. "I want you to know something," he continued. "I didn't marry you out of pity. I didn't marry you because I wanted a servant. I married you because the first time I looked into your eyes, I saw a woman worth loving." Sada's heart skipped. She didn't know how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. He smiled softly and added, "I know you don't love me yet and I won't force you. All I want is a chance to make you happy." That night, Saad couldn't sleep. She lay awake thinking about Adewale's words. No one had ever wanted to make her happy. In the following weeks, Adewale continued to show her a love she had never known. He taught her how to paddle the canoe, how to mend fishing nets. He made her laugh without realizing it, like the day he fell into the river trying to catch a stubborn fish and came out looking like a wet goat. Slowly, without even noticing, Saad began to change. She started waiting for him at the riverbank when he returned from fishing. She began cooking his favorite meals even when he didn't ask. She started watching him with soft eyes when he wasn't looking. One evening, while they sat outside under the mango tree, the moon shining like a silver lamp, Saad broke the silence. "Adewale," she called softly. He turned to her, surprised that she spoke first. "Yes. I want to thank you for treating me like a human being. All my life, no one ever treated me well. You are the first person to make me feel seen." Adewale's heart melted. He reached out slowly and took her hand. "You deserve more, Saad. You deserve the whole world." Their eyes met under the moonlight, and for the first time since their marriage, Saad smiled at him. That night, she whispered in the darkness, "I love you." He smiled back, replying softly, "I love you too, my wife." And for the first time since her wedding, she felt free. About 3 months after their marriage, the peaceful rhythm of Ipata village was suddenly broken by the sound of royal drums. Everyone was shocked, because in Ipata, when the royal drums sounded outside of festival season, it meant only one thing: an important announcement from the palace. People gathered quickly at the village square as the king's royal messenger stepped forward. He was dressed in red and white cloth, holding a long carved staff. His deep voice echoed through the crowd. Attention, attention, people of Ipito. The palace brings great news from His Royal Majesty. By the order of the king, the Crown Prince Femi will return from the city in 2 weeks' time. Upon his return, there will be a grand ceremony at the palace where he will choose a wife from among the maidens of the kingdom. The crowd erupted in gasps and cheers. The young maidens began whispering excitedly, already dreaming of being chosen by the prince. Mama Ronk's eyes widened. She grabbed Tamawa's arm and whispered urgently, "You see, I told you, my daughter, your time has come. You were born to be royalty." Tamawa smiled proudly and flipped her long braids. "No one in this village can match my beauty," she said confidently. As the excitement filled the square, no one noticed Adewale walking silently past them with his fishing nets slung over his shoulder. Back at the riverside, Saad was sitting outside peeling cassava. She looked up as Adewale returned. "You're back early," she said softly. "There was an announcement at the square," he replied. "The crown prince is returning. He'll be choosing a wife soon." Saad nodded slowly. "That's good news for the maidens," she said absent-mindedly, not realizing how close to home that statement would become. 4 days, Ipita village buzzed with preparation. Girls rushed to the tailors' huts to sew the finest wrappers and blouses. Mama Ronk began buying new beads and body oil for Tamawa. "You must outshine them all," she told her daughter. "The prince will not resist you." While the entire village prepared for royalty, Adewale and Sada's little home by the river remained quiet. On the eve of the ceremony, Mama Ronk gathered Tamawa and 3 village girls she had hired to help her dress. "You must glow tomorrow," she said. "Dance, smile, charm him. This is our destiny." Tamawa raised her chin proudly. "The prince will choose me. After all, I am the most beautiful maiden in Ipito." Meanwhile, at the small riverside hut, Adewale lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he thought, everything will change. Tomorrow the masks will fall. Tomorrow the truth will be revealed. He turned to look at Saad sleeping peacefully beside him. Would she still look at him with love when she discovered who he really was? Would she forgive him for keeping his secret? The morning came with thunderous drums and songs. The entire village of Ipita came alive. Women wore their brightest wrappers and tallest gellies, while men dressed in clean igbadas and fila caps, eager to catch a glimpse of the prince. Children ran barefoot through the crowd, laughing and shouting. At the center of it all stood Mama Ronk, radiating false pride. She inspected every bead and wrinkle on Tamawa's outfit like a queen mother preparing her heir. "Today is your day," she whispered. "You will not return home as an ordinary girl, but as the future queen." Tamawa smiled smugly. "No one can compete with me today," she said, adjusting her golden necklace. Far away by the riverbank, Saad prepared a simple meal of yam and palm oil. She could hear the drums echoing faintly through the forest, but she paid no attention. Her place was not in the palace square. Her life was here, with Adewale, simple and peaceful. That morning she felt strangely light-hearted, as if something beautiful was about to happen, though she didn't know what. Adewale, however, was unusually quiet. He sat beneath the mango tree, staring into the sky like a man with the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. When Saad came out and sat beside him, she noticed the tension in his eyes. "Adewale, are you not going to the square?" she asked gently. He smiled faintly. "No, my place is here." Saad blushed and looked away. Her heart fluttered, though she didn't know why. Meanwhile, at the palace square, the atmosphere was electric. The king sat on his golden throne, the elders and chiefs surrounding him. The drummers beat harder, and the royal gong sounded 3 times. It was time. The king rose from his throne, his voice deep and powerful as it echoed across the palace square. "My people of Ipito," he began, "today is the day my son, Prince Femi, will choose a wife. But before he does, there is something you must know." The entire crowd fell silent. Even the drummers stopped. The king continued, "My son returned to this village many moons ago, but not as a prince. He came as a common man, to live among you, to see with his own eyes what life is like beyond the palace, and to find a woman who would love him not for his crown, but for his heart." The crowd gasped. Murmurs filled the air. Mama Ronk's jaw dropped. Tamawa frowned, confused. The king raised his staff. "You did not recognize him because he hid his identity. Today, you shall meet the true crown prince of Ipito, Prince Femi Adewale, son of the king." Suddenly the crowd parted as royal guards stepped aside. And there, walking slowly toward the throne, was Adewale, no longer in torn fisherman clothes, but dressed in rich white agbada embroidered with gold, his head held high and his eyes calm. Gasps filled the air. "It's Adewale the fisherman," someone cried. "Ah! It cannot be," another shouted. "Adewale is the prince?" Mama Ronk's mouth hung open. Her legs trembled violently. Tomowa's face turned pale. The man they had mocked, humiliated, and rejected was the prince all along. Adewale bowed deeply before the king. "My father," he said, his voice steady, "I have returned." The king smiled proudly and embraced him. "My son, you have chosen wisely," he said. "You went into the world to find truth, and you have returned with a pure heart." Adewale turned to face the stunned crowd. "My people," he began, "I am sorry for my silence. I wanted to live among you not as a prince but as a man. Today, I will not be choosing a wife from among the maidens gathered here. My heart has already chosen." The crowd murmured in confusion. The king asked gently, "My son, where is she?" Adewale smiled softly. "She is not here. She does not even know she is married to a prince." Mama Ronk staggered backward. "No, no. This cannot be," she cried, clutching her chest. Her world crumbled in seconds. The same useless stepdaughter she had given away to a poor fisherman was now the wife of a crown prince. Her legs gave way and she collapsed. The villagers rushed to help her, carrying her away as Tomowa broke into tears beside her mother. Back at the riverside hut, Saad was pounding yam when she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. She looked up and froze. Adewale stood before her, but not as the humble fisherman she knew. He was radiant, dressed like royalty, guards following behind him. Her mouth fell open, the pestle slipping from her hand. "My husband, what is all this?" she whispered in disbelief. Adewale stepped closer and took her hand. "Saad," he said softly, "forgive me for hiding who I am. I wanted to know if you would love me without the crown." Tears filled her eyes. Everything, his kindness, his gentleness, the way he never complained about poverty, it all made sense now. She fell to her knees, sobbing. "My lord, I never knew." Adewale knelt beside her and lifted her chin. "No, my queen. You loved me for who I am, not what I have. That is all that matters." He embraced her tightly as the guards and villagers who had followed watched with teary eyes. 1 week later, Ipita village came alive again, this time for a royal celebration unlike any it had ever seen. This was not the quiet, shameful wedding where Saad was handed away like unwanted property. This was grand, colorful, and unforgettable, a celebration fit for a prince and his chosen queen. The palace courtyard was decorated with palm fronds, flowers, and bright Ankara fabrics. Royal drummers beat the talking drums with pride, and the air was filled with songs of praise. Saad stood at the entrance of the palace courtyard, her skin glowing, dressed in a rich lace wrapper and coral bead crown. Gold earrings shimmered on her ears. Her smile shone brighter than the morning sun. The elders performed the traditional rites one by one. Kola nuts were broken. Palm wine was shared. The crowd cheered when Saad knelt gracefully and offered a cup of wine to Prince Femi Adewale, as tradition demanded. The drums thundered, dancers twirled, and songs of joy echoed through Ipitu until late in the night. 2 months later, Queen Saad returned to her stepmother's home. Mama Ronk and Tomowa knelt before her in tears, begging for forgiveness. Saad took Mama Ronk's hands gently and said, "You are still my mother. I forgive you." Peace returned to their hearts that day. Years later, after the old king passed away, Prince Femi Adewale was crowned king of Ipitu, and Queen Saad ruled by his side. Together they led the kingdom with kindness and justice, raising 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. They lived happily ever after.